Hello and welcome back to the Weekend Spread, the Schooner Pod's weekly college football pick'em podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today are our esteemed panel of pickers, Jameson Maxwell, Bowton Blake, and the champion of 2024, the great Ty Lee. Ty, you had a just truly excellent season across the board normally. Finishing at 82 and 72, like that's a great run for anybody. But also considering how bad Blake, Jameson, and myself were, it just domination from front to back. So congratulations, sir. Just a great win.
Yep, that's what we do. We've competed for 4 seasons. We have won the championship twice, and we have finished last the other 2. We're all or nothing. And it's frankly, it's disgusting that some of these other programs like Blake are satisfied just being middle of the road merchants.
I agree with that.
No, I was trying to go for it at the end there. Unlike Bobby, which I felt like Bobby was very picking just so Jameson didn't catch him at third place. I was still at least attempting to try to get into first. Bobby was just happy in third and just wanted to stay there.
Yes, once again, as my victory speech, I would like to campaign for us to be the first ever podcast to implement a last place but also second place punishment, because we need that layer of the game.
But I don't want someone tanking to try to not get, I don't know. I see where you're coming from. It would have made this run very interesting.
But it makes the number 3 spot pretty intense.
It makes it like properly volatile, so I'll give you that. But look, no one wants to hear us talk about our Pick'em podcast results. What they do want to hear about is the college football playoff round 1, first ever year of the 12-team college football playoff. And guys, I gotta say, I've been very excited about the expansion since it was announced. And one of the biggest reasons were these on-campus games, and I feel like we got a really, really good slate of some just awesome games. But I gotta ask, any surprises when the 12-teamer was announced? This specific one, I feel like it was pretty straightforward.
No,
I don't think anyone got screwed getting left out or anything. It felt really good.
it was clear, and they freaking leaked it before the show too. That was lame.
Damn you, Brett McMurphy!
Yeah.
That's why these live events like the draft and everything now suck, because everybody's just spoiling everything before it happens. Like, I think ESPN goes a little too far with the hype and the pomp and circumstance around unveiling the bracket. It feels like it's a 30-minute event to get through something that's relatively easy. Like, CBS does a great job with March Madness. Just going through it, bang, 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 bang. You get to evaluate it, get the talking points. ESPN just makes it this whole, like, dog and pony show. But they did. I will give it to them. Like, I don't want it tweeted out. And they actually did a pretty good job this time. I have really no qualms, no issues. Alabama did not deserve to be in, especially with the close SMU loss. I was very fine with it.
It wasn't even like, I think it was just like artificial talking point of like, should Alabama be in over SMU? Like, after SMU's, championship game performance, they needed some kind of controversy of who's going to get left out, because that's just good for sports media. Come on,
all
guys.
the ESPN
Alabama
hosts,
lost to freaking Oklahoma. Like, get out of town.
But all the ESPN hosts were acting like one of their cast members got shot right before the show.
Are you referring to Joey Galloway and Booger and those guys?
Or Kirk and Nick Saban and those guys that were constantly moaning up until before and till this day about this decision and how it's such a crime that 3-loss Alabama was left out for 2 teams that it was bad. It was a bad talking point. Like, I think Jameson is right there trying to drum up some form of controversy, but it was getting to the point where they were saying Alabama's losses, to teams that are 6-6 or whatever, over 6-6, they're creating new stats to make the 3 losses look way better than they were just horrible. They're both really bad losses.
Yeah, especially the Oklahoma one. But yeah, they have no business being in this playoff, and frankly, we probably talked about them too much. But yeah, that's kind of part of it. And Yeah, I don't know. I love the system, and we'll talk about. We'll go a little bit more in depth as we dive
The
in. You don't
buys
love?
suck.
Well, I don't hate the buys. What I hate about it. What I hate
Oregon
about it
has
is
to play Tennessee, Ohio State in the second round. That is
I don't
so
think that's
whack.
the buys problem. I think that's a matter of reseeding or not reseeding. You know?
Okay, yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The buys
Yeah.
reseeding. We're talking about the same thing, Bobby.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
Okay, but you can't say the buys suck. That means something different.
No, I like a buy to the top 4 teams. 1, 2,
Yes.
3, and 4.
I think second round games not being on campus also sucks. Like, it would be really cool to see Penn State have to go play Boise on the blue instead of, I don't know, the Fiesta Bowl. I feel like that's not much of an advantage.
It's like a shame that the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed don't get that experience of having a home playoff game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say the only good, not to be a bowl backer or whatever, but I think it would make travel plans a lot easier if you knew your path in the playoff of potentially where you could go. Like, it
They know the
kind of
path.
would be nice. Like, that would be nice to be like, okay, make a last second flight to whoever your first round game is, but then you know the next 2-3 locations after, instead of it just being up in air between 2 locations or different combinations of it. I think that is a nice aspect of having bowls after the first round.
That is true. That is true. All right, boys, we want to get into the games here. Sound good?
Let's do
All
it.
right, let's start with what I think is just a tremendous way to kick this game or this playoff off. It's the 10th seeded Indiana Hoosiers, 11-1, heading to South Bend, in-state rivalry game, rivalry with big parentheses there, against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, 11-1 overall, or 11-1 and the 7 seed. This game, despite both teams being in Indiana, they have not played this since 1991. So really, really cool that we get this. Notre Dame's favored by 7. You can find this one 7 p.m. Central on ABC. This, of course, being a Friday night game as well. So, Ty, kick us off. Who do you like?
Yeah, really cool. Like you said, that they're getting to play in state. I'm sure this is huge. You know, a lot of neighbors, friends, everything else that have conflicting fan bases here. So that aspect is super cool. But I would like to just everyone mentally screenshot this matchup and enter it into evidence as to why the 12-team playoff is foolish. And we're going to say that for another one of these coming up. But I don't know. This is maybe I just mentally imagine that it's an 8-team playoff and this is like the play-in round or something. I don't know. I can't ride with Notre Dame here. Give me Indiana. Love what they're doing there. I think Notre Dame probably gets it, but I just can't ride with them. So give me Indy.
Line's moving in that direction.
I just love this matchup. Like, I know what Ty's getting at. It feels like these two teams were benefited based on the schedule that they had going into the season, where Indiana really only had to face one legit opponent. Notre Dame didn't really have that difficult of a schedule. Like, they got that win early on versus Texas A&M, which ended up being a pretty good one. But at the same time, it's a week 1 result, which I'm always like a little bit shaky on. Like, we've been misled in week 1s a lot of times just because teams haven't rounded into form. But yeah, this game just offers so many good storylines, though, even though it's kind of shaky whether these teams probably deserve to be there, even though like they did just because of how crazy it was. But I like that Bobby mentioned it's like the in-state rivalry kind of aspect of it. I think we got a lot of conflicted fans here. I know a lot of people in Indiana are like Notre Dame football fans and IU basketball fans just because they were dominant or very good at those respective sports and pretty horrible at the other ones. So I think that's an interesting storyline. And then just Sig. I feel like Sig on the big stage. This is where he makes his name known. I don't trust Marcus Freeman in big moments. It's something about Notre Dame, but he always squanders these random games at home. I know this one's a big one, but I just feel like Curtis Rourke, that Indiana team, I think they are feisty enough to just at least keep it close with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame wins, Indiana covers, but I think this one has the potential to be the best of the games, if I'm going to be honest. So I'm very excited, but I'm going to take Indiana +7.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an excellent game. I'm very excited about it. Notre Dame, look, since that Northern Illinois loss, they've been steamrolling teams. They haven't had a lot of great competition, mainly just kind of service academies that they're used to playing, and I guess a tight game against Louisville. But they're steamrolling them, and I think you got to give them credit for that. Of course, Indiana, last time they went up against a big-time program, they kind of got pantsed when they played Ohio State. So that gives you a little bit of question, a little bit of pause. Curtis Rourke, his hand, he's going to play, but I'm interested to see how that affects him as well. But here's the thing. You can talk about Indiana's schedule and how they haven't played anyone. Notre Dame kind of hasn't played anybody since that Texas A&M game to start the season. And not only that, but when we're talking about big games at Notre Dame, Blake, do you know the last time Notre Dame won a major postseason game? Bowl game.
I'm trying to think because it was never in the playoff era. They got pantsed on national TV versus Alabama, like in the early 2010s. Probably would you even have to go back to like the 90s?
1994 Cotton Bowl. It's the last time they won like a New Year's Six type of bowl. I'm going to say it. I think the streak continues. I'm trending Indiana to cover. I think they also... I'm loving Coach Sig. I've been riding with the Hoosiers all season long. I don't even know what the stakes of this pick'em contest is. It doesn't count for the main season. It doesn't really count for anything. It's just kind of this nebulous pick. So I'm going to go with the Hoosiers. I think this would be just a tremendous, awesome way to cap off what has been the best season in school history, essentially, for Indiana football. So Hoosiers it is.
Yeah, I miss fading Bobby just for the sake of fading Bobby. I got a nice little rush from that for the last 2 weeks of the season.
Even though it didn't work.
I don't care. It was fun. I think what really comes down to here is, can Indiana stop Notre Dame's rushing game? I feel like Indiana, although they didn't look too hot versus Ohio State, I feel like they did a really good job versus Quinshon Judkins. And obviously Travion had a couple big runs, but I feel like that was still pretty impressive. And that's where they're going to stop and put Notre Dame in bad positions, because their running game, they've got like two guys in the backfield been going. And then you get Riley Leonard and the QB run game. It's been just tearing down teams. And that's why you're seeing Notre Dame put up 40+ on all these teams. So if you can stop the running game and force Riley Leonard to be a primary passer, I think that can make him really uncomfortable. I just don't think Indiana's got enough. I think Notre Dame gets the cover for 7 points.
All right. Moving on to our next game. It's the SMU Mustangs, the 11th seed out of the ACC. 11-2. They're heading to Happy Valley to take on Penn State, and it is a whiteout. It is actually a whiteout. They have called it a whiteout game. I've confirmed it. A whiteout game.
It's on TNT?
Oh, yeah. This is one of the TNT games that...
Deserve.
Yeah, well, ESPN has kind of put some of these games on TNT, which is wild. It's basically going to be the same thing, ESPN crew, all of that, which makes me sad because I really would have loved to see Chuck and Shaq talking about a sport they have not watched.
That's basically they do March Madness, like when Charles Barkley comes on March Madness.
And the NBA too. Let's be honest.
They just
thought you were going to say that's basically what we're doing right now.
Well, we know.
Reference the records.
Who's Chuck? Out of all four of us, who's Chuck?
I don't know. Do we have a Chuck? I don't think we have a Chuck.
Blake.
Because Blake is not Chuck-like. He gets
Blake,
too wound up.
I don't know. Ty's
Blake, would you ever live in San Antonio?
Bits are kind of close.
Oh, God. Okay,
I think Ty could be a Chuck.
He's also a Shaq because he's always trying to egg somebody on with his bits. He's always trying to get somebody going. He's he activates the entire.
Bobby is very much an Ernie.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Yes.
I don't watch this. This is not a bit. That's just I know Charles Barkley and Shaq. I know there's another guy, and then there's the guy that
Yeah.
obviously didn't play in the NBA.
Ernie is the guy who did not play in the NBA. But Penn State seeded 6. Happy Valley, and again, Penn State favored by 8.5 here. That's 11 a.m. Central on TNT and Max. So a little bit unusual. But Jameson, who do you like in the game?
Did you say it's the whiteout game?
They have deemed it a whiteout game.
Fade Penn State. Fade them. Man, I really like this SMU team. Even when they got down in that first half versus Clemson, I was like, man, they've got it. I understand that it's tough, and like Penn State could really manhandle them, and it could be just like moot, and I'd be like, I look stupid. But that SMU offense, Kevin Jennings in the backfield, just a playmaker. He's got a lot of, like all those Miami transfers and all the skill athletes that they got around him. I think this is going to be an electric game. You talk about the Indiana Notre Dame game. Like, I don't know, but I'm kind of the most excited for this one. Like,
oh, dear God.
I'm excited for this one. Drew Aller said he's coming back, and put the team on his back here. And then Kevin Jennings, the way that they ended the season, ended the game in the ACC championship, I really like this SMU team. I don't think they win, but I think they can get scrappy and keep it close.
Yeah, I love an SMU cover here. Because I don't know if Penn State's excited for this. Like, I don't know if their fans are pumped for this.
Oh, come on, Bobby. What the?
Have y'all seen the ticket prices? Get in for this game is $35.
That's normal. It's
huge.
No.
I know it's huge, but
these games are cheaper.
Compare that to literally any other of them, and you'll see. To me, it's. I don't know if they're up for
This is
SMU.
what
I think
happens with campus games too, Bobby. When you have them and you don't expect them to happen, you haven't had like weeks to plan where you're gonna stay. Like you're just kind of.
Penn State knew this was gonna happen.
How many Penn State fans live close enough to Happy Valley?
Happy Valley is tricky to get to.
I don't know.
Happy Valley is tricky to get to, yeah, but I mean, if this was Alabama or another big SEC team, you can't.
You're right.
Tell
We
me
should
that.
have put in Alabama over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you know what? We're going to remove SMU from the graphic and pick a hypothetical game, Alabama at Penn State, and see what happens. What do you say, Blake?
No, Penn State loses the home.
They still lose.
To be at Alabama.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think overall, I think SMU has been, just an incredible story, as much as I'm sure Blake hates to hear that. But what they've done year one in the ACC, they're scrappy, and I don't think they win this game either, Jameson, but 8.5 feels way too high for a Penn State team that the highlights of their season are losing games close. And, they've played a lot of teams who are beneath them way too close. Minnesota, USC, and I don't know. I think Jennings and co. do enough to keep this thing close. Penn State gets a big win that James Franklin still can't call it a top 5 win, but it counts as big. So good for them on that one.
I'm just looking at Blake's face. He's ready to cook.
SMU +8 is the play, though.
SMU is getting smoked. They're getting smoked. They played nobody all season. I told y'all when they went up against Clemson, they were going to lose. They were just going to lose outright because Clemson has a pulse. And not to kind of just go off on Penn State here, but Penn State's looked pretty good this year. They haven't looked like compared to a lot of the other teams, sure, they haven't won a big game yet all year, but they were close in both of them within one score. They look like they are a solid fundamental team that I just don't think SMU is going to be able to handle. They're bigger than them. They're stronger than them. They're going to throw them around on defense. And Drew Aller has played pretty decent. That was a big win to get him back next year, keep that continuity going. They have 2 great running backs that are close to 1,000-yard rushers on the year. Tyler Warren is supposedly the best tight end in America when he's most likely second. But he's a pass-catching weapon. I'm a little sad that Bo Perbula is not playing in this. I like the packages that they feature him in. I like how they use him in a little wild card role, little Savion Williams TCU type package. I love that. They're just better coaches. Like Penn State's going to be better coach. They have the better players. They have the better defense. I think their offense is better weapons. It's going to be bad. I think Penn State is getting up for this game. I don't care about Bobby's season, like our ticket price scandal. It's a big stadium. It's hard to get to. It's going to be packed out. It's not like another one of these games on the slate where the ticket prices are falling and a fan base is eating them all up immediately to like swarm their stadium. This is not happening here. Like SMU will have a small contingent, but they will get blown out. It will be bad. I feel the good thing is they can come to my therapy sessions. I know what it's like to get blown out in a big game on a national stage when everybody's looking at
Where's
you.
this going?
But it's going to happen. It's just destiny. So sorry, SMU. I guess it was a great season. You got the 11th seed, but you're going to get blown out by Penn State. So give me Penn State.
Can I say another side of that coin, Bobby, about the get-in price? Maybe a lower get-in price gets in rowdier fans.
Yeah. I like that.
Maybe.
I don't. Why is America just so obsessed with ticket prices? It's what's screwing us all over because they keep raising them, and it costs an arm and a leg to go to games. But like, if your stadium has cheap tickets that you can get in, you get clowned all over the internet because you can afford to go to the games. Like, I don't get the gatekeeping of tickets.
I don't. That's my thing, though, is I don't think it is, like, I think it's an indicator of how much it is in demand or not. Because I do agree, like, ticket prices do need to drop. I fully agree, and it probably shouldn't be a bragging point if it's high. But I think, to me, it's more of just a show that yours is in demand and the others are not. And it wouldn't
literally tar and feather their owners if they raise it like their season tickets by £5.
Well, so, they're literally not allowed to upsell tickets though. Ticket toting is not allowed in like England. You have to sell them for face. So I think that is something that the United States should probably go towards. And you say what it never will.
Oh my god! Yeah. No chance.
No,
there's 0% chance it's happening.
0% chance, but it would be nice. It's a boy can dream.
Politicizing the pod.
Trying to bring communism to the podcast, I guess.
We always knew it, Ty.
There you go. Ty, who do you like?
Here, we need to talk some quick facts about the whiteout game. First, they've played 20 times. This is something that only became this is our tradition. This is our thing. They just started doing it in 2005. Granted, there's some precursor games, Nebraska and all that. Like Penn State fans will freak out if we don't acknowledge that there were some proto whiteout games that sort of led up to the idea. But against top 10 opponents, Penn State is 2-5 in the whiteout game. Both of those wins are against Ohio State, funny enough. They say that part of the tradition is that the game is at night, but like half of them, including this one, are during the day. One of their traditions for this game is to play Mo Bamba, which everyone's seen that one clip that looks kind of cool, but playing Mo Bamba at a college football game is not like, that's not your tradition. Everyone does that like 50 times a game for some reason. It just doesn't make sense. I guess it's like a fun attempt, but again, you can't be making up traditions in 2005 and claiming to be a blue blood. With that being said, Penn State will win this game because that's what they do. They beat up on these teams. Well, I can't just be positive on them. They beat up on these teams. I was reading earlier today that Penn State, I guess like last year or early in the season, whenever the schedule dropped, they already moved their exams or something like that around this game. Which is not surprising because, once again, these absolute schedule merchants are in this game because they knew they had one game in the regular season that meant anything, and they didn't even have to win it to make the playoff. They could have gotten blown out in that game. They still would have made it into the playoff, and then conference championships just don't really matter in terms of making it into the playoff this year when the SEC cannibalized itself. So give me Penn State to win this one pretty big, unfortunately, I think, because great segue into our next matchup. We all saw what SMU did against Clemson, who might be the least talked about playoff team in the history of college football.
These are not a playoff quality team. They are not.
Fair.
well,
We'll
yeah.
get to that.
Bobby's gonna be all over him. Just calling my shot right here.
So winner of this game goes and plays.
We got an Einstein in the lower left-hand corner down there. It really knows ball. And
Bobby's going to pick against Texas here?
Winner of SMU and Boise. SMU and Penn State gets Boise, by the way, in the Fiesta Bowl. Moving on to our next game. It's the 12th seeded Clemson Tigers, 10-3, sneaking into the college football playoff of that ACC championship. They're heading to Austin to take on the Longhorns, who are the fifth seed after a overtime loss to Georgia in the SEC title. 11-2, both losses to Georgia. Longhorns favored by 12. You can find this one at 3 p.m. Central on TNT and Max. And the winner of this one goes on to play Arizona State, the 4th seed, in the Peach Bowl. All right, Ty, who do you like?
Okay. I did not know that Clemson was a 3-loss team until just now. Bama deserved to be in the playoff.
But that's the thing. If you win your conference championship, you're in.
Clemson. We cannot be rewarding these, just like we talked about the Big Ten, just deliberately making sure that their big teams did not play each other more than like the bare minimum amount of times. The ACC cannot be permitted. This is disgusting because I'm not trying to be pro SEC here, but the SEC went out of its way to make sure that all these big teams played each other throughout the season. They gave us marquee matchups, all the like Texas, Georgia early on in the season, all of these big matchups throughout the season. It's absolutely disgusting. All that being said, I'm of course taking Texas here, but my goodness, would it be the funniest thing ever if Clemson makes a run in this, because they are, I don't want to say that anyone's not deserving of being in the playoff, but I think Texas is the first team that we've talked about on this pod so far that's a legitimate contender. If they can just figure out this, maybe third time's a charm with Georgia, I don't know. But give me Texas in this one. Minus 12 is a lot. Through Quinn Ewers, all types of disappointment are possible. I'd like to see a Quinn Ewers number of turnovers. I'd like to see a minus 1.5 there, and I would go ahead and take the over on that too. But go ahead and give me Texas minus 12. And a little teaser there. Yeah, Texas minus 12, but Quinn Ewers more than 1.5 turnovers.
I like that. I'm taking the Longhorns here as well. I disagree with Ty's sentiment that they're the only contender we've talked about so far. I honestly think if they end up, well, if they beat Indiana, I think Notre Dame could go. I have a feeling it's like if they could prove if they beat Indiana, like because we just haven't seen them play a legit competitor yet to see what it would look like. But if they continue doing what they have been doing to teams, like they could roll through this and get to a natty. But yeah, Texas is, I don't know, they're hard. I want to support them and say like they are definitely in those elite teams, but they just refuse to beat Georgia, which is a problem whenever Georgia is by far the best team they've played the entire year, but just still can't beat them. We've been saying it all year long. You need Quinn Ewers gone. They need him gone. He's playing, I feel like, a little banged up. Doesn't look the same, but he just makes too many dumb errors, and he's kind of a check down guy. Like he's Bo Nix-esque, but without the Bo Nix not turning the ball over. He can only do stuff when you have a good game plan in front of him. That's why he would be a perfect Oregon quarterback. Oregon is able to get the best out of these guys, turn Dylan Gabriel into something. It's just Quinn is showing no upside to me, and so that scares me a little bit when I got a guy that's hot or cold like Cade Klubnik back there. That can run around a little bit, that can zing the ball. And it worries me too, like Dabo does. Like Dabo, whenever he gets his big moments, he can show up. That's the one thing he can do as a coach. And so it does worry me. I'm like, 12 points is a lot, but I just think I have to remember that this Clemson team is really not good against elite talent. We saw them against Georgia, and Georgia got absolutely just shoved them in a locker bad. That game was horrendous. Where Texas was able to kind of hang around with Georgia the second time. It worries me. Like 12 points worries me because Quinn could screw this all up. But I think Texas is just too talented. I think the home field advantage is going to mean a lot to them. I could see this just being a 14-point win, but I'm going with the Longhorns.
You know, if you're Texas, and I know this is crazy given that Clemson is 10-3, but the way that Clemson program is set up, the recruits they bring in, and Dabo Swinney, a guy who has won championships, you would have much rather have seen Arizona State or Boise coming to Austin, because I think Clemson, to me, they're feisty. And if you watched them this season, yeah, they're not the Clemson of old, but they find ways to win games kind of, that they have no business winning. The Pitt rally was insane. Obviously nailing an insane field goal against SMU in the ACC title to walk that one off was very impressive as well. And to me, I feel like that's a team you really don't want to face, especially when you're a Texas team that cannot put teams away. They struggled with it. They struggled to put Arkansas away. They struggled to put A&M away mostly. They obviously couldn't. They kind of struggled with Vanderbilt putting them away, and they struggled putting Georgia away, which they should have thumped the Bulldogs, and they lost because they could not put them away in the first half. They could not finish. Their red zone issues are absolute definable issues that continue to crop up and have not been fixed yet. And because of that, 12 points feels too much for me. I know this Clemson team is not that type of team. I don't think they're a championship contender at all. It's kind of a miracle they're even in this position. But I feel like Cade Klubnik and Dabo Swinney, I think they have enough to keep this game close. And I think Texas just doesn't have that. And this is, in my opinion, why they're not the best team in the country, because they cannot slam the door on teams that are inferior to them. I think Texas still wins. I think Clemson covers. And for everybody saying, "Oh, Bobby, you always fade them," I am 6-3 in games involving Texas this season, 4-2 in fading. So I know when to fade them properly. I took a little bit of a jump on OU at 14, at A&M plus 5.5. I was that close to getting a cover, goal line stand. That sucked. But I'm just saying, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like this game is going to be closer than 12. Clemson sticks around. Cade Klubnik, Austin guy. I'm just saying, storytellers or the story writers for the college football playoff. There's some storylines to work with on the Clemson side.
If this is all scripted and they script Clemson, my goodness,
that'd be awful. Then that's like that's Benioff and Weiss level, like a disaster.
Game of Thrones ending.
Exactly.
That's who won it all.
If Clemson wins, there's definitely going to be a photo of Bobby in that mink coat with like a pan pipe flute of cigars, just ripping all of them. Like he is going to be ripping through cigars.
Texas being the first team to lose, or first college football playoff team to lose to a 12 seed that should actually be ranked 17th would be so funny.
I will say that the final just cherry on top of DJU's career as they recover finally from him having damaged that program so horribly.
He's going to the NFL draft, Ty.
I mean, I would too if Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers were my competition.
Bowden Blake could also submit himself to the draft. I mean, I could. We all could.
What do you think your 40 time would be right now?
Oh God, I don't know. I was never even in my peak a sprinter, so
we should for future do a combine for the loser.
Yes.
Oh, wait. Oh, that's a good punishment right there. That's a really good punishment.
Hilarious. Okay, we've done it. We've done it, boys. I'm picking Clemson. Clemson, 12 points. I think they keep it close just because I just don't believe in Texas to get out big enough to put away Clemson. Clemson's been, feisty enough to keep it close in these games. And like we talk bad about Cade Klubnik, he's been decent recently. I think he's been decent. Like you can't judge his performance in the Georgia game because I feel like he's gotten a lot better throughout the season.
I just really haven't seen him put it together ever versus elite
I get
competition.
that, and I get that. One thing that I wish was better is Phil Maffa having that labrum injury right now to where like he's in pain every single time he gets the ball. It just sucks. Like that, if you have Phil Maffa in this game for Clemson, then it's like, yeah, I could see it being even like a 8-point spread, but that might be hyperbolic, but I like Clemson here.
All right. Let's move on to our final matchup of round 1, and it's a big one. It's the 9-seeded Tennessee Volunteers, 10-2. They're heading to the shoe to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes, the 8th seed. Ohio State, a 7.5-point favorite in this one. You can find this one 7 p.m. Central on ABC. Jameson, what are your thoughts on this game? Winner faces the Oregon Ducks in the Rose Bowl.
Hilarious that Ohio State now gets to go back to home after they just lost to Michigan at home. Because if this goes bad, it's going to be a lot of fun in the shoe. And that's what I'm going to be cheering for. I want to see Tennessee make some Ohio State fans feel icky. I want to hear some boos in the first quarter. I know they were not happy the way that the Michigan game ended. Let's ride that momentum into this game and see Tennessee put up a good fight versus Ohio State team that has really fallen off in terms of their production. You would expect more from them, but it just seems like I thought their offense would be unstoppable. What's going on with this offense? I think that's a huge red flag, and I think Tennessee can keep it close enough to cover the plus 7.5.
Yeah, Jameson, I'm with you on this one. Look, the Vols, we know what they can do to a fan base. They have been in full force for this one. Not only are they buying up a ton of tickets, I believe SeatGeek has them at like 45% of the resale tickets have gone to the state of Tennessee. They're bombarding all of the touch tunes with just Rocky Top. Every Columbus touch tunes is just Rocky Top on loop. It's going to be, I think, a really electric environment. They're vibing. This is the best they've been since 1998. Ohio State, on the other end, if they get down 10 in that first quarter, the Boo Birds are coming out for a playoff game. If they lose this one, they should honestly probably pepper spray Ryan Day at midfield and get him out of there.
Can you imagine his big buck teeth coming?
That did not get enough press. That I think somebody, they had a taser on one guy and then were pepper spraying players. Like, are we kidding? Like,
the video of the pepper spray is so lame too. It is so lame.
Like, you should not be allowed to be within 200 miles of a football stadium. If in a post-game brawl, which they're never that big or that bad in football, it's always just a whole bunch of shoving. And if you can't just like break that up calmly and you have to pepper spray somebody, you shouldn't be allowed near a stadium ever again. Ever.
No,
Give that guy the wooden gun like in the other guys. You know?
No, I mean, that's the thing. It's the softest fan base. They're like out here trying to get a bill passed where you like can't plant the flag at Ohio Stadium.
I'm gonna go woke on it. Supposedly the guy who did it went to Michigan, and he's like an Ohio representative, and so it makes it look really bad. But I think it was an inside job. I think it's I will support Ohio State on that one.
Okay, which would be pretty funny. That's okay.
Yeah,
in that case, kudos to you, Michigan.
Because nobody's doing that much digging into that. They just see the headlines and immediately like go on without their day saying the softest fan base in the world, and then
that's an incredible troll. That's really, really well done. Shout out to Michigan for that one. No, but I just think, to me, like, even with the game, like just talking about the game rather than the vibes, because the vibes are horrendous for Ohio State. Tennessee's rolling. I just feel like that, Ohio State doesn't do well when they're not bullying another team. When they are not the team with a clear size or talent advantage, they shrink. That's why they lose to Michigan. That's why they don't look good in the playoffs. And to me, I just think of James Pierce and that incredible Tennessee defensive line causing, just havoc on Will Howard, who I feel like could have a really bad day. If you get to him, hit him hard, all of that sort of stuff. I feel like Tennessee's offense, now that you've kind of recognized that your running back is the best player and not Nico, I think that has been a total game changer. Dylan Sampson has been excellent. I feel like he can control the pace, control the clock, just kind of grind it out. And I like Tennessee here to cover the 7.5. I like them to win. So yeah, we're gonna roll with our old friends the Vols on this one.
We all knew Bobby was a Vol fan. We all knew it. He's turned over. We had this whole conversation on the past pod.
Old pandering Bob out here. What can I say? They're endearing to me. I enjoyed them.
Bobby let a domestic terrorist organization take over his mind. They put fear into him that he doesn't want to piss him off anymore, so he can have some peace. So he just.
I also think they win this game, though. No. I really do.
You guys didn't get to meet those guys that Bobby and I did, though. They were genuinely great guys.
That is true. Yeah, and the people at the tailgates were nice. So
they're fine people on both sides, Blake.
Next time, Blake, who do you like?
Yes, this one's a hard one for me because it just feels like momentum-wise, Tennessee does have it. But I feel like everybody and their mother, every Joe Schmo on the block is just all over Tennessee. They saw this number and they're like, yep. And I think Vegas knows something. I really do. If you look just a little bit more into Tennessee, it's just Nico has not been super impressive. He's been all right, and at best, he's been kind of a game manager, but he hasn't been elite that I thought he was going to take them to this next level. Their defense has been fantastic. That has been the highlight. That's been the thing keeping them in games, not necessarily the offense. Ohio State's pretty good against the run. They've gone against some Penn State team with 2 great running backs. They've gone against Oregon. They've gone against some of these good running offenses and still were able to stop them or keep them at bay. I just don't see Tennessee. Tennessee really just wants to rely on Dylan Sampson just to run all over them. And I don't think Ohio State will really allow that. And Ohio State does have playmakers. I think the thing I feel good about is Ohio State. The reason why people are down on them is the Michigan game, how horrible they looked, how the offense just kind of went it was an absolute dud. But I think they were trying to, Ryan Day was trying to beat them the way Michigan has beaten them the last few years, trying to run the ball down their throat. We're bigger, more physical than you. I think he was trying to he was going for a little bit of a meme win. He wanted to beat them, but he also wanted to beat them the way that he had just been getting creamed the last few years, and that was his ultimate downfall. I don't think he'll do that this game. I think we're going to see something more like the Oregon, Ohio State, one that can actually compete with those top tier talents. I think Ohio State covers. I think this game is being heralded as the one that's going to really deliver. This one's going to be the most interesting one. I don't. I think this ends up being a pretty disappointing one. I think Ohio State just kind of from the bat, it doesn't blow them out per se, but just controls the game. Always up 7-14 within there, and it just never feels like Tennessee was able to compete. So I'm going to take Ohio State minus the 7.5.
I've long been fairly sympathetic to Ohio State. I certainly, when I watch their games, when I watch Ohio State, Michigan, when I watch, pretty much all of their games besides Oregon, I'm generally rooting for Ohio State to win. They're interesting. You see a lot of players that you're going to see at a higher level and things like that. But the beauty of college football is the hype and everything else. And I do agree with everything that Blake said, but I'm just coming to a different conclusion that the hype and the atmosphere around Tennessee, you cannot win football games on that, but that's just so exciting to me. And it feels like Tennessee is playing this game as if this is it. This is the championship. And if they play every game like that, it can be at least exciting until the next round. But Ohio State, I think while on paper they have the star power, they have everything else going for them, I could see, unfortunately, I think they are maybe good enough that we just see Ohio State look ahead and still be able to win this one, because winning is all that matters, right? Covering doesn't matter. You just got to win. It's a playoff. They win every one of these by 1 point. They're 4 points away from winning a national championship at this point. So they don't have to win by whatever the line is. So that does worry me, but I got to ride with Tennessee. It's just more fun. If like when I watch this game, I want to, is this a saying like tie your horse to a wagon? I want to tie my horse to that wagon or something like that. I want to, I guess, attach my fate to the Vols here because that's just more fun. It's not fun to root for Ohio State in this one. So go ahead and give me the Vols. I think they have it. I understand Ohio State can potentially shut down Samson a little bit. We saw it against OU. OU was the only team that has so far held him to under 4 yards per carry. Kind of some interesting play call decisions potentially by Tennessee when it comes to Dylan Sampson anyways in that game. But I don't know. I think Heupel gets them up for this one. They're certainly the underdogs, but I don't know that hurts them. So go ahead and give me the Vols on this one to at least get the cover.
All right. So
I'm the only one that didn't fall victim to the terror tactics. I'm glad. Stand strong.
I don't think it's terror tactics, though. I actually
That's
think
what
Tennessee...
they want you to think, Bobby.
No, I really think they're a good football team, and Ohio State struggles when they're in physical games. And I think Tennessee can out-physical them. But we'll see.
I've just never seen a fan base move like that. Like they are a I don't even know what you call them, like a school of piranhas. Just like whenever they attack, it's never just one reply. It's like a million of them. And it's like any tweet I see from any Ohio State person or anybody trashing it, immediately the comments they're almost getting ratioed every single time because they just swarm. I don't get it. I props to them. They have good burner tactics, but it's.
They know how to mobilize, man. I tell you. And I think some of it's like this like level of how good they were in the 90s, followed by how bad they were from essentially like from like 2000 on. So they have like this suppressed, they have so much passion, but so much pain and like suppressed energy that now that they're good, they just kind of let it out. And it's
battered ball syndrome. It's a thing.
Exactly.
It's like
it is a thing.
Widely known thing.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to see, and I'm happy for them. They're having themselves a time, and I think it's cool. So I don't know if they're going to properly turn the horseshoe into Neyland North. Probably not, but it's going. I guarantee you, there's going to be a lot of orange there, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be good. So,
what's the over under on pepper spray in this one?
1.
Do you think if Tennessee wins, do you think if Tennessee like he pulls it, but then he doesn't get it, fired
Can
off?
We get a half pepper spray?
If Tennessee wins and charges the field, they might start pepper spray.
The funniest things they've been saying is that they're like, yeah, everyone's worried about us planting the flag. What they should be worried about, that river is mighty close to the stadium. We're going to take the goalpost out and throw it in your river. Which would be, it's not going to happen, but that would be so damn funny.
An all-time college football moment.
It would be Malice at the Palace, kind of. That's what. What it would look like.
People, yeah, it would be.
That's a crime.
Tennessee fans.
There's charges getting.
The
pressed.
Tennessee fans would be backed up against the river like the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae. And then Big Nut would be standing on top of the stadium.
Big Nut. Oh my god.
The Tennessee fans of, holding up the goalpost as like a shield.
Our beer cans will block out the sun.
We shall plant our flags in the shade.
That's great. All right, well, guys, should be a really fun first round of the college football playoff. We'll be back here in a couple days to preview round 2, talk a little bit of the other kind of good bowls, and for the Sooner fans watching, we'll do a little preview of the Armed Forces Bowl against Navy as well. So just make sure to stay tuned, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already, and do all the YouTube support things. You know how to do it. Anyways, for me, Jameson, Boat and Blake, and the 2024 champion Ty Lee, this has been the Weekend Spread. We'll see you next time.